Good morning, everybody. We got the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the clouds' early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's bright glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that a flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and all of the brave?
Hail this land of glory, we the Ambazonia, special loyalty. Praises to our Savior who granted us the freedom. Our legends to the hero who fought along the gather. Glory to glory, we rise and never to fall. Here in a nation, flowing with earth and holy. Glory, glory, glory to the Father for making you a nation, a joy forevermore. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meeting our need, and your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of this nation. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meeting our need, and your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of this nation.
We've been joined by Fru. Oops. For a second, I thought he was leaving. Oh, okay. So, how are you, Fru?
I'm doing very well.
This
morning. Good morning.
How are you?
Yeah.
Good.
So,
What's the update? You have to put your mic on, Boo.
flip that to your T-shirt.
Did you turn it on for him?
I did.
Oh, good.
We got the green light.
All right.
So, we were talking about Tingsboro, and I'm sure we're going to get back to Tingsboro.
We certainly are.
All
So
right,
it's-
Fru, we're going to soldier on with Tingsboro, which is in a mess.
Well, it's going
The
to
French have taken over. Oh, okay.
I guess democracy is not accepted anymore in Kingsville.
Well, that's not good.
No.
But now there's a lead in to Fru. Fru, you're here to talk about Cameroon. You got an update for us?
Yes, and it's really getting from bad to critical. And before I say, I speak, I'd like to, there is a note here, an email that I received from Cameroon, a very moving email thanking Linda, Clifford, and John for really standing up for the situation in Cameroon and bringing it to their attention to the world. I was looking at that email to read. When I saw it coming, I said, these are people, you are connecting with people across the Atlantic. You don't know, they watched the program there, and he was very moved. When I get the videos, I send them over. Really, right now that we are speaking, I think it has actually gone to a full-blown war, and the genocide is really going on. and many people are being slaughtered, and the French army has even come in. There are pictures of French armies in Cameroon now, which there is a little video there that will actually refresh our minds going back to '59, when Cameroon was fighting for its independence from France. You see French armies that came in and beheaded people and hold their heads.
Oh, God.
You will see them holding people's head just to intimidate the population.
There was also a matter of the escalating conflicts in French Cameroon between the administering authority, France, and the UPC. The UPC was advocating for the immediate decolonization, reunification, and independence of French Cameroon following the revolt by and subsequent banning of the UPC in May 1955. Many UPC leaders were forced into exile and took up residence in Kumba in southern Cameroons. In the global political climate resulting from the Cold War, the governments of France and Nascent, French Cameroon, conveniently labelled the UPC a communist organisation, legitimising their use of lethal force in suppressing it. This would later lead to the little-known Civil War of Cameroon in the late 1950s and 60s, where tens of thousands of innocent civilians were killed.
Well, that is the guy who's arrested. That's the president.
So the first thing that comes to my mind is the U.S. providing transportation for the French army, because usually the French army doesn't go anywhere unless the U.S. Air Force takes them there in Africa. Like when there was that fighting in, what's that south of Libya? Is that Chad?
Chad.
Yeah, when there was the fighting in Chad, the U.S. Air Force took the French army in. So I hope we're not involved in that.
But that is really what this war is going on. Even though they are blaming the French Cameroon, it is the French people that are behind setting up all this. And actually, there is evidence on the ground. You see French armies planting mines there. We don't really want Cameroon to be somewhere like some of those countries that are infected in mines. People are going to the farm to see them picking up mines and dying. So it's really critical to the point that the world really needs to know about this.
Why isn't the world? Why is nobody paying attention to this?
Well, we know the thing. The French, they are a member of the Security Council. And then they will do everything to lobby. They are lobbyists in the halls of Congress and everywhere in Washington, pushing this and around the world. And just last week, I had relatives that were killed. They were actually traveling. They stopped somewhere at the checkpoint. One really wanted to ease himself. If you gotta go, you must go. He got up. The gendarme said, "Don't go." Then he just moved by the roadside, according to Bush. They wanted to ease himself. They just shot him dead by the side of the road. And another one, they stopped a car full of travelers. On the way, they asked them to come up. They came out of the car. They shot all of them, 4 dead. And most of these armies that we are saying, most of them are coming from French-speaking countries like Chad, Gabon, Congo, Central African Republic, that have no emotion, no connections to the Cameroonians. One of our highest ranking cardinal from Rome really spoke out 2 days ago and saying that this is really a genocide, calling on to the world and the West to really turn the lights on Cameroon.
Have you heard anything positive from Zongas or Maki or Warren? I mean, they're all Democrats. They should all be. I mean, if they're Republicans, I might say, well, you know, sometimes we can be a little cold.
But now it is interesting because not only Democrats but Republicans, there are Congress men and Congress women who are both Republicans and Democrats that have written to the Secretary of State. And the Secretary of the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, the Honorable Nikki Haley, is aware of it and has written a letter to this effect. So that is the pressure that is mounting. Gradually, it is coming up.
So they are stepping up and trying to
yes,
intercede. Okay.
To that effect, I would not really say I give a lot of thanks to the American population that are actually urging their Congress people, senators to be writing these letters to the Secretary of State and to the Ambassador to the United Nations. And it is because of those pressures that are coming from the American people that are going through their representatives to the Congress, and they are acting and writing the letter to the government that we saw that resolution that was passed in Congress.
Yes.
And those are very major steps that actually bring the issue to light that American people are paying attention, and those governments, they are also watching very carefully and listening to what the government is doing. So the most important thing that we really need now is bring these images, because the images, the atrocity that is going on there, if the American population doesn't really see this, I mean...
Why? Why is our media not covering it?
Well, the media... I don't really know. I don't really know because, like I said, the lobbying power is very, very powerful. So we at the grassroots...
We're too busy worrying about nonsense.
Well, there's political cross currents too. The French President Macron, is it Emmanuel Macron?
Yes.
Is getting buddy-buddy with President Trump. The first, I mean, we're now what, 14 months into the new administration. The first state dinner that President Trump is going to have will be, I think, this month with President Macron and his wife. And,
is there anybody that can get to the president and tell him to stop this? He has no problem telling, North Korea, and I mean, he isn't. I mean, he certainly isn't a wimp. He certainly will say whatever. If somebody can reach him and explain to him what is going on, why isn't he being made aware?
I don't know, but obviously, as you say, the ambassador Nikki Haley understands the situation, so I'm sure she's talking about this.
I would hope so. I would hope that she would step up and talk to him. You got this meeting coming up, and tell him to stop it.
But there's other things going on,
okay.
And frankly, I don't think the Democrats are going to do anything if they in any way think that it would make President Trump look good.
See, there's my issue right there. We're so silly. This is all so silly, this infighting and nonsense, worrying about the Russians and Trump's. I don't really, let's just press on. Because there are problems. There are problems in his country his old country.
Old country.
Old country. You're right.
The Irish expression, the old sod.
And your family members are being,
Your
murdered.
schoolmates that we went to school, most of them are dead. And then what is very striking is that sometimes when you run and hide in the bushes, you think that that is safe. But the army has declared war on its own citizen. It's getting to 2 years now. The president of his country, of Cameroon, in his annual speech, did not make mention of the refugees, 50,000 refugees that are in Nigeria. We have stories that some of them trekked for 4 miles, kilometers, just to go and be by the TV to listen to their president speak. But they were disappointed that in a foreign country, the president did not say any word. And the main problem with all this, Linda, I would read something, an agreement that France signed in 1959 with the Cameroons, with the president, in the French side, that mortgage it says that France has full authority over Cameroon resources, of deciding the education of Cameroon, the politics of Cameroon. In case of any little problem, they have to bring their military to kill the people so that they can continue.
Not kill, not kill.
They are killing now.
I know, but that's not what it says.
No, it
No,
doesn't.
no, that's the
doesn't say
French
you
way, though. Look what they did to
Well,
the
it's all
people
about
in the
the oil, isn't it?
Vendée.
It's all about follow the money.
During the Revolution, there was some general was sent to a province on the Atlantic Ocean, and he said, "When I'm done, there will be no one to accuse me because I will kill everyone." This is the Vendée province out on the Atlantic Ocean. They killed a lot of people. It was genocide.
Well,
Just
This is a cooperation, this is an agreement that France signed with the French Cameroon in 1959. It says 59 years old, signed on the 26th of December 1959 by President Ahidjo, that's the French Cameroon then, and the French President Charles de Gaulle. Up till date, neither this current president or George Pompidou, Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, Mitterrand, Jacques Chirac, Nicolas Sarkozy, and François Hollande have changed anything. However, 6th article raises a lot of concern. Article 6 of the cooperation agreement with France says that France shall determine Cameroon's political, economic, and social cultural orientation. 2, France shall manufacture money for Cameroon, called the French franc CFA. 3, France shall guide the determination of cooperation of Cameroon's education program at all levels. 4, France, the French public treasury shall have a portfolio named operation account to cover 100% of Cameroon's foreign exchange. This percentage has not been revised has been revised for 65%, and in 1972 and 1973 in Brazzaville, Dakar, and Biera. So you see,
but it was changed in 72.
They revised it. It should have been 100%, but they just brought it down to 65%. So with the current situation in Cameroon, France knows that, in fact, all their resources, if they lose Cameroon, which we are not really driving the French out, we want to make negotiation, like diplomatic negotiation that they do with all the other countries. If the West wants to invest, they should sign meaningful investment and let the people have control of...
what country is Brazzaville in?
Congo.
Congo.
You have Congo, Brazzaville.
That explains why, because when you say Brazzaville, in the back of my mind, I think it's bad things.
No, the Republic of Congo. You have the Republic of Congo, whose capital is Brazzaville, and then the Democratic Republic of Congo.
So we're done with this one?
Yeah, those are our leaders who are in who were abducted from Nigeria. There is another page too. There are 2 pages. Yes, that's another page. Those are the ones who were abducted. You see, all of them are doctors, barristers.
Where is the UN, the big peacemaking?
These are questions that we are asking. The UN is
useless.
I would say the UN is really an association that takes care of the Western countries and not the third world.
I don't think they take care of us too well.
France is a member of that club, and it looks
so
like...
is the United States. So, I mean...
But the United States is very good, because the United States is, when they go to a country, they help that country. They don't actually do... In France, their politics is assimilation and make you feel like us. But the West, the Anglo-Saxon culture doesn't really work that way. They work with you and also respect your dignity. And if you look all over the world, French has lost all its calling, starting from Haiti, Vietnam, Cambodia. The only place that France still have a hold. French is a dead language. The only place
Very
that
romantic.
France still have is a romantic language, but you would be surprised that the French are sending their children at the international level. They don't even speak French at World Organization. The international language is English.
Well.
So in Cameroon, if the Cameroonians were really looking forward to the future, they have that wonderful opportunity that English is part of the Cameroonian culture, but France has just dominated.
Why haven't the British done as well? I mean, they have a lot to lose. I mean, it's your part of Cameroon that's got the oil.
Well, maybe, okay, you look.
Yeah, let's look at the mines.
Yeah, those, you see French soldiers, blue, white, red, down,
Yeah.
where you see the
I
mines.
yeah, I see the flag.
Right, that's you are blue, that's a French soldier in Cameroon. And you see them with dogs now. Those dogs are going, looking for people who have fled the villages to go and hide in the forest. And they are killing them. Helicopter is flying overhead. We have seen dead bodies in the bush.
This is like deja vu of Cambodia.
Yeah.
And that is where France was. Wherever they go, they...
Does that scroll down, John, a little bit?
Okay, that's what it reads. This was February 26.
That was 2 days ago.
2 days ago. John, maybe there is a YouTube there. Maybe you can even... yeah, it's genocide in the British Cameroon, if you Google that. No, you can genocide in Eastern Cameroon, in the British Cameroon.
So I suspect, to Linda's question, that the Brits are already have a full skillet with withdrawal from the European Union and trying to make that work and cut deals with France and Germany. They may not have
The resources.
the resources and the extra space in their brains to deal with this problem.
And after all, I mean, the UN, the poor UN, they have to worry about China and Russia, which they're doing nothing about. So why would they do anything in Cameroon?
But
Well, they've
Linda,
got North Korea, too.
but
Oh,
Linda,
yes, that's
one
right.
of the biggest questions that we Cameroonians ask, the history knows that these were two independent countries. If Britain can break out of Euro,
Yeah,
if they can break out of the Eurozone,
yeah.
and then we who were independent, why is the world not actually saying this? We were not part of that country.
But, Africa is such a mystery to everybody. It's a real mystery to the West. And since when the Brits left Africa, when they backed out of Africa, more or less, then they kind of just washed their hands of it, obviously. They've had, they ruled the world, and then they lost it all. So I think that they've had enough issues of their own that so I think that, and as he says, coming out of the euro has been huge in the market. It's for the Brits, so they have a lot in their plate. So I guess I can understand. I don't understand the UN at all.
What I'm worried about, based on what Fruz told us, is that we get a repeat of the genocide between the Hutus and the Tutsis back when Bill Clinton was president.
1994.
Yeah. And we did nothing, which led to the theory of R2P, responsibility to protect. And what did that get us? That got us into Iraq, and now in Syria. Now that none of that's working out well, I don't think we have a solution here.
And if we hear that the French are planting mines in Cameroon, and it's really against an international treaty that was signed in Canada not
Yes.
to do this. So why would French which is clearly shown there, going to Cameroon and going to the British side, that they have actually given so many weapons to the government of Cameroon, killing people without arms, protesting peacefully, which is a situation that would have been resolved if they had that culture of dialogue.
Yeah.
This situation wouldn't have gone so far. They are calling the Anglophones, we as separatists. We did not start this way. We started by doing exactly what the Americans do, peacefully going to the streets. And then when we go to the streets here,
We don't do peacefully anymore, Fru.
But it will start
Comparatively.
comparatively to what is going out there. The helicopters will be shooting people on the ground. That has been the norm.
No, but we don't peacefully protest anymore is where I was going with that.
Yeah, well, you're
They
right.
burn buildings and they, it's...
But still, not as bad as Cameroon. So
Well, no, I mean, I'm talking about the protesters. The protesters probably are being more polite than they are here.
Oh yeah, from the English side, the protesters are peaceful.
I can't play the audio on this computer because it
Okay.
echoes through the whole system. So what are we looking at here?
Okay, now that's the torture. It explained that's what at a time, because if the audio was really coming up, it would have explained everything. Now that is British Southern in Cameroon. That this is the current ruler who has been there since 1960. Those are okay. Those are Southern Cameroonians that you are watching right now. That's the brutality on the road. You see, the army is chasing everyone. They beheaded this fellow.
Oh, God, I don't
You
know.
will watch, Linda.
No, I don't want to watch.
That's a lame person. Look, the two of them will red. That's the Cameroon army. You see that? You see him beheading him on the ground. You see, you look at decapitated.
No, I can't look at it.
You see, that is exactly what is going on. They are chasing anyone. Look, those are cops on the ground. This is Cameroon. You see, they're shooting now. Look at how they just. People are carrying leaves and everything. They are not going to see. Just look at the inhuman treatment that they are dealing on peaceful protesters. This is the French government, the French Cameroon gendarme. People pay their taxes for the gendarme. You see, that's in the bush. That people run to go and hide. The helicopter, it hunts them and kills them in the bush.
This is making me sick.
These are images that the world should really know. Look at it exactly. See, just if the audio was there, see what they are doing to someone's child and someone's brother, someone's father.
Oh, my God.
That is exactly what is going on in the Cameroons, that the world has really paid no attention. And if you look there, it's peaceful. Okay, this is the Cameroon army. They take these pictures to show their to their friends. Look at them filming. Look at them filming. The Cameroon army is BIR, that Brigade Intervention Rapide.
Yeah.
That you see exactly. That's what they are doing to innocent, peaceful southern Cameroonians.
I don't even care if they're not innocent. I mean,
See.
you don't treat people like human beings like that.
And these gendarmes, these people that they are brutalizing, they pay their taxes. Most of them have escaped and hidden in the bush. Their villages are burnt. Just that is what is going on.
Oh, my God.
I mean, this is not a treatment that another human being should really receive.
Okay, I'm going to go back to Elizabeth Warren. Is supposed to be a big advocate for human rights. All of Nancy Pelosi. Where is Nancy Pelosi that thinks Donald Trump is some kind of maniac? Where is she now?
Those
Why
are
don't
my-
these people, Schumann, why aren't they fighting for these
Just
people?
imagine, those are my relatives, it could be my brothers, my schoolmates, the people that we went to
No, they're
school with.
human
Just
beings.
of
I
no,
mean, this
they
is
are
not, this is just awful.
of no, they did nothing. But this is the treatment that these gendarmes, they are there. This is money, tax money.
What type of people do that?
Just inhuman.
They're animals.
This is what is going on. This is what is going on. People hide to take these images. That's the reason why they turn on the internet. Because these images are going out. Look. You look, those are all the young generation.
Oh my God.
See what they're doing. So, when I really come here and cry, when I get calls from every day, I have relatives that are being killed. It's really, and the only thing, the little that I can do is to bring these images to the whole world, not to be quiet.
We're just a little cable, local cable. I mean, I don't understand.
No, but they are watching this around the world.
I know, I would hope so, but I don't know. I don't understand.
Okay,
our
John,
legislators.
it's done. Thank you very much.
I don't understand our legislators. They don't get involved. I don't understand how the UN can turn their back on that.
We're sitting here, Linda. You just watch it. When you
I know.
see those
I
images,
can't even. It's ruined my morning. But it ruins my morning because I know that they're busy worrying about nonsense, and they're not. When you see something like that.
But when you listen, the government will say that these are terrorists. They label us terrorists. And then because Boko Haram is in Nigeria, they use Boko Haram to placate everyone who's advocating for peaceful changes of the problems in the country. And they use Boko Haram so that they can extort money from the West.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense because Boko Haram philosophy, political philosophy, religious philosophy is totally different from the Anglophone world. Boko Haram means Western education is wrong. That's what the name translates out at. So to try and conflate Boko Haram and the Anglophone Cameroons just is ridiculous. Plus, I'm suspecting Anglophone Cameroon, it tends to be Christian.
80% of Anglophone Cameroon is Christian. All the
Boko
churches.
Haram is a fundamentalist Islamic sect. They're more fundamentalist than the Wahhabis out of Saudi Arabia. They're just, and they just kidnapped a bunch of Nigerian
300 students.
Yes. Just this last 7 days.
But then the question you will ask about that is, this is locally orchestrated. Because when we say 300 students, the West and all non-profit caring people will send money. That money goes to where?
Well, yeah.
It goes into the pockets of all these and it's the same thing that in Cameroon, when once they mention Boko Haram, the West comes in, is sympathetic that they are fighting. They use all that to always imagine the budget that our government sends to these countries to fight Boko Haram.
Yeah.
That money doesn't go into the hands of fighting. They know that that's a source of money. And I think that another thing that can help actually pressure these people, it's go after the money.
Oh, I agree.
Those guys who have billions of dollars in American banks, how did they get this ill-gotten wealth? That is the money that they sent to fight Boko Haram, and it enters their pockets and comes back again into these banks.
Yeah. Tell me, like Korea, South Korea, North Korea, there are some here in the U.S., there are some national level organizations that look at the Korea problem. Is there a national level organization in the United States that deals with Cameroon issues? Do you know?
Well,
are there some national recognized scholars that talk about this?
Cliff, that's a very good question. You know, the situation, the government in place have always misinformed the whole world with lies that Cameroon is one of the most peaceful countries in the world.
Wow.
It's because any dissent within, they crush it. And it's only now that the English, the Anglophones, we have stood up now and saying that either you kill us or nothing else, because we, for 56 57 years, we have gone through this. It is now that the world is saying this. So if intellectual or any other companies that are people that are looking at this, they know the history. And it is now that when you see these images, that government cannot fool what you see. A picture is worth 1,000 words that we see. So
Well, I would hope that that video would go to every single Democratic
that
and
video part of
Republican.
it is done by Amnesty International.
This is
That is what,
This is Joe Kennedy's letter to
yeah,
Rex Tillerson
yep.
at February 16th, and bringing his attention to all these things that's happening in Cameroon. So,
Is it? Could you
Tell me
read
they
it,
have-
John?
Can I read this?
Yeah.
I'll zoom in on it.
Okay, that's exactly what is, because I think our delegation met with the Congressman Joe Kennedy III,
Yeah.
and that was just recent. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. It says, Secretary Tillerson, I write to express deep concern over reported deteriorating conditions for individuals in Cameroon. Furthermore, I urge the Department of State to encourage the government of Cameroon to comply with its obligations under international law to help advance constructive dialogue between both parties in the ongoing conflict. According to reports, the government of Cameroon has, among other things, arrested hundreds of protesters, disrupted communication platforms, and used force to restrict free expression and peaceful assembly in, I don't know what that,
Anglophone.
In Anglophone.
Anglophone regions. Recent reports allege that Cameroonian security forces have besieged villages in rural areas, opened fire on civilians, burned down homes and other buildings. In response, according to the national, excuse me, according to United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, more than 40,000 individuals have fled the neighboring Nigeria. Troubling reports indicate that Nigerian authorities have forcibly returned 47 individuals,
Those are the pictures that we saw.
Yeah.
some of whom had apparently submitted asylum claims to Cameroonian authorities, which has raised serious due process and human rights concerns. I call on you as Secretary of State to urge the government of Cameroon to respect the rights of the I can't say that.
Anglophones.
Anglophone people and all of its country's citizens, consistent with the international obligations and commitments, and help facilitate dialogue in an effort to secure a peaceful resolution to this conflict. Sincerely, Joseph P. Kennedy, the third member of Congress. And
Well-
that's February 16th, he wrote that letter.
President Trump has not been a fan of the UN, so I would think that his administration would be behind this, because here's another nail in that coffin, because they just don't do what they get the money to do. I mean, they're supposed to be the peace.
Well, but President Trump too has also spoken very strongly against all these tyrants around the world. So
Yes.
in that, we, the Southern Cameroonians, are counting on President Trump as well, because I believe in the State of the Union, he talked about all these tyrants that are using their people to enrich themselves. And that was a powerful message that went out and shook most of all these places. I know that these letters that are going up the channel of power, they are already on Secretary of State Tillerson desk. It will soon get President Trump's ear, and that is. And if President Trump sees all these images of atrocities
God.
and people, I mean, I think he will not sleep.
He would not. No, he wouldn't.
not
Who
sleep.
could- I mean, that's just appalling.
Yeah.
And it should be out. And I'm glad that that video has to be seen. As bad as it is, it has to be seen by. I don't care whether they're protests. I don't care what they are. Nobody. I mean.
And with all this crisis going on, Linda, you will be surprised that the president has not said any word. and the 80% of the French Cameroon are not saying any word. And if I may take this opportunity to and speak to my brothers and sisters from the French side, I will equally say that when in 1959, when they were fighting for independence against the French, those pictures that John will be showing later on, that they beheaded most of them ran over to the English-speaking Cameroon.
Yeah. Who took them in?
Yeah, we took most of them in. People from the western region and people from the littoral, they should equally know that this is that moment that they should come to the help of us, our brothers. They say that you should be your brother's keeper. This is the moment, because this atrocity is inflicted by this regime. They come from the eastern province.
Do we get anything, are there any sanctions we can put on French Cameroon?
Eventually, all that oil, they bring it into
Well, yeah,
the
well,
West.
that's my issue. That the oil is in your part. That's what this is all about, as you said, for all the money. Until that they actually take over English Cameroon, is which they want because they want the oil. But right now, is there anything that we can put sanctions on that they send to the United States?
Oh, like economically, industrially, all the industrial, the capital equipment, they come from America. All the economy depends on American money.
Then stop the money.
Yes, stop where the money goes. It is money that financial aid that this country gives to these dictators. Instead of building the roads, you go there are no roads.
Right.
They come to the West, they say we want to build schools. Give us funds to build schools, to build hospitals, to build roads. Where does that money end?
Right.
You have the president, you have the ministers, they have villas in this country.
Oh, sure.
The president's daughter is living in California.
Of course she is.
Paying about I think about $21,000 in a complex a month on rents. Where does that money come from? We work 24/7. Do we really get that money, that amount of money?
Well, I mean, we're putting sanctions in Korea, as we should. I think that any country that treats their people this way, it's just...
I think the situation with Korea is that it is in the front page
Well,
of the news.
well, it's because he has nuclear weapons. That's
Yes.
why Korea is...
And they are
I
in the
mean,
front page of the news. What we are doing, we are elevating the Cameroon crisis. Even though, Linda, let us not minimize what we are doing here. This video goes viral around the world. The powers that be, they watch it. It's only a question of when they will react. We are not still in the dark anymore.
But are they? Is it poking the bear a bit? It appears that they're stepping up the aggression.
They are stepping up the aggression, and also people of goodwill are walking the halls of the Congress.
Okay.
They are in the British Parliament is taking this up. Even in France, the French people are rising up when they see these pictures.
Well,
in Germany,
absolutely.
all over the world.
People are not bad people.
They are
No one
not
can-
bad, it is the government.
It's always the government, though.
So with all these images that we are encouraging, that let the images speak for themselves. Because anyone who has blood flowing in his vein, when once you see red blood, it reminds you of what keeps us, sustain all of us.
Well.
That no other human being should be treated as such. Are these people, do they have a mind? Do they have sisters? Do they have parents? Do they have brothers and sisters? You are doing that onto some other person. And who is a citizen like you? And it is his tax money that is putting on that uniform that you are
That's
carrying.
right. I'm
Well,
appalled.
there's a lot of money that flows overseas. I read a headline yesterday, $48 billion in military foreign aid. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot.
That's a
Well,
lot
it
of
isn't just the military. As you say, the other
corruption.
the
yeah.
money that they could build roads here, for God's sakes, are going in their pockets. It's just so irritating.
It is irritating.
If you have
Speaking of
happened,
irritating, I got to see if I can catch John's eye and see if he's getting ready for a break. Oh, okay.
Oh, break time.
It is break time. I mean, we've been on this subject hot and heavy,
I
and it's
know.
6:55 already.
I know.
And we
I'm
have
exhausted.
someone in the green room who wants to talk about his activity on
I
Friday.
just,
So
I am so sorry for what
Yeah.
your people are going through. It's
it
just
is
not,
not a good thing.
no, and
But
step up, step up, step
it's
up.
nice to see that Patrick
Yep.
Kennedy has written
Yes.
a letter. Nikki
Yes.
Haley has.
Here's something we
something
can all
out
agree
there.
on. Can't we
Yeah.
all agree on something? We
The
can all agree
Congress,
on
for
this.
once, has passed
Yeah.
Resolution 718. And if you read that resolution, the first paragraph is about a professor here who went to Cameroon, did a documentary. He was thrown in jail. He's an American. So the American pressure had to pressure that evil government. So it shows that they are afraid they release him. He will be coming here in Lowell May 5th.
Okay.
Because Lowell has actually supported this movement. I reached out to him. He said he has always heard of what City Hall in Lowell has done. And he has watched what, those are the people that are writing the thank you letters. Linda, I'm going to find that letter and send. So he says he will really come and he will be first an eyewitness of because he has been in prison in Cameroon for 2 weeks. So he will talk about his ordeal.
And you'll let us know
Yes.
more details then. The 5th of May, that's
5th of May, Saturday,
March
5th
and
of
May, April, so that's 2 months, so 60
Yes.
in a handful of days from now. And I think I was down the last time representatives from Southern Cameroon were here in the city. They met in the mayor's reception room. There were some people up from
And some of
the
them
south-
are arrested there.
south part of the county.
I mean, we have a direct connection to the people who are in
We
jail.
do.
President Sisiko Ayuk Tabe.
This
He's
guy
the-
here, charming guy, walked around the room, made time to shake with everyone's hand.
Yeah.
You didn't have to walk over to this guy. He walked over to you.
Now you
very
gotta go
peaceful.
to jail to reach him.
Now imagine as Congressman Joe Kennedy has written in his letter that 40,000 and growing to 60,000 are in Nigeria. He is a human person. They were discussing how they can help our brothers and sisters who have fled their own country because of their own government, killing its own citizen, went to the neighboring government, their own government in cahoots with the Nigerian government that is giving them refuge, followed there and arrested the whole cabinet. They are not easy people. All of them are barristers, PhD holders,
Wait. We need to explain to people what barristers are.
lawyers.
Lawyers, yeah. So in England, they hide the fact they're lawyers by calling themselves barristers.
No, they don't. They wear those silly wigs, though.
Yeah, and they do wear the silly wigs.
Yes.
So we're going to go to a break. But Fru's leaving in about 4 minutes. Fru,
Yeah, so
how do
we're
they-
going to let him finish up.
Fru, how do you, in Cameroon, how do they handle the mentally ill in Cameroon? Traditionally.
Very important question, John. Just when you watch those videos, do you see that that's a government who thinks about any mentally sick people are crazy? They just abandon them. Now, mentally sick people in Cameroon, to be honest, are looked upon as dead.
Now,
As if they are the ones who cause their problem.
yesterday out in Los Angeles, they had a woman, probably mentally ill, walk into a playground with an axe. And luckily the cops showed up in time. Somebody called the cops and they took care of her, but that's pretty bad. I mean, you see anybody walking down the street with an axe, you're going to go like, ooh,
And
that's not in a bag.
And I'm sorry, she didn't just go off the rails one day and walk into the playground with an axe. And then afterwards, somebody would be saying, oh yeah, we all knew that Susie was nuts and violent. We just chose not to do anything. What's wrong with me?
Because mentally,
It's Joey.
Yes.
it's an illness that you don't bring it on to yourself.
True.
And the government are those who can take care of those who cannot take care of themselves.
But we're not.
we sit
but
here and
even
watch,
we're not taking care of them.
but at least we are talking about it. We know that is talking about it, and I would beg to disagree with you, Linda. We are taking care of it to a certain extent, and not completely ignoring it or turning a
absolutely.
blind eye.
Yeah.
But to answer John's question, over there, the blame is on the person who is sick. The government
the
doesn't
victim,
even
yeah.
think about that. When you watch those images, is that a government that would
Well,
be
it's not a
thinking
caring
about?
no.
So I mean that is the real answer. And,
Pay your taxes and get out of here.
pay your taxes, and then
Then we're going to shoot you.
it-
Not
it-
just shoot you. It'd be nice if they just shot them. They torture them.
Yeah, no, pay your taxes. If I'm sick, if my daughter is sick, that's the ministers, the president. I will use your tax money to fly over to Europe, fly to America to get a treatment, and then come back and get that energy to oppress you, to destroy your market, to destroy your livelihood, to burn your villages, so that you always continue to live in fear, and I have the power.
So you're going to be coming back again and talking to us about the visit on the 5th of May and keeping us updated on what's going on in Cameroon, because we don't want it to turn into another Rwanda.
Hey, I got big
bad.
news. Big news from China. China is going to crack down on funeral strippers.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
On what?
Funeral strippers.
Funeral strippers.
Women who make money by stripping at funerals.
Yeah. That China's going to put an end to that.
Is there a big market for that here, John?
No.
I hasn't
But
started
in
yet.
China
Linda.
there is.
Hasn't, but
Oh, yeah.
China's going to crack down. They vow to crack down on that. Just to update.
Okay, John, before I leave, let me just...
Go ahead.
I would like to take this opportunity again. John, Linda, and Cliff, like I said, people, my people from the English part of Cameroon, and from Cameroon in general, even on the French side, they watch this program. They have feelings. When they see those images, their heart goes out.
Oh.
And when you ask these tough questions to the world, they really feel that you are fighting for them. And even though they are thousands of miles away, they are across the Atlantic Ocean, you've not met them, but in spirit, they pray for you, and that you've actually taught them. But before I really finish, I will add this, I will just bring this, highlight this point for us to see as to the politics in Cameroon. Can you just imagine that the Democrats, having their convention, they go and hold their convention in a Republican hall, or the Republican holding their convention in a Democratic hall and inviting the Democrats to sit there with them? That's the politics in Cameroon. In Cameroon, there are two parties. The opposition party just had its convention, and the opposition party seat is from Bamenda, which is our sister city.
Now, this is an English-speaking.
Yes, the English city. Since they have been killing all this genocide going on there, the chairman of that party, who's originated from Bamenda, and you would think that he would say, oh, stop. We don't want to hold our Congress here because our people are dying on the street.
Right.
He takes his opposition party, goes to the ruling party's Congress hall, and held his party there, and invited the opposition party's member to join him. And this is really the kind of politics that the French has actually bought over, and using people who are in the upper power to kill their people. So, and also I would like also to send this message to my friends and family members and other Cameroonians in the Francophone side, that they should know that we are not their enemies. And that in the 60s, 1957 to 1960s, when the French were killing them, beheading them and holding their heads to show to them to intimidate, they ran over to the English Cameroon for refuge.
There was also a matter of the escalating conflicts in French Cameroon between the administering authority, France, and the UPC. The UPC was advocating for the immediate decolonization, reunification, and independence of French Cameroon, following the revolt by and subsequent banning of the UPC in May 1955. Many UPC leaders were forced into exile and took up residence in Kumba in southern Cameroons. In the global political climate resulting from the Cold War, the governments of France and Nascent, French Cameroon, conveniently labelled the UPC a communist organisation, legitimising their use of lethal force in suppressing it. This would later lead to the little-known Civil War of Cameroon in the late 1950s and 60s, where tens of thousands of innocent civilians were killed.
And it is time now to reciprocate that generosity, that help that the English Cameroon gave them. So that if members of the English-speaking Cameroon, if they cross over there, and those there, they should understand that, you know what, we are all Cameroonians. And even if there are two countries, you know, we had lived before, and then we welcome you. There's still that exchange of movement. We are intermarried. There's no problem. So we really plead that our brothers and sisters Francophones should stand up and say something.
Well, I agree with you. I want them to stand up, but I don't want them to get shot, tortured just because they stand. And that's what's happening.
Yeah.
If your government can all be kidnapped and nobody in the world seems to be paying any attention, how is some poor shop owner going to survive? This, I can understand why they're intimidated, because the leaders have all been kidnapped. That's not, and nobody has stopped it. I mean, I just can't believe that it's been this long. So,
So, Prue, you're off. Thank you very much for coming in.
thank you.
Linda, thank you very much. And John, thank you very much.
We'll have it back anytime. Just be in touch. God bless you.
Yes.
The time 1957 rolled around, the political tensions and differences of opinion about the future of the territory were revolving around at least 4 distinct choices as the ways forward for southern Cameroons. Option 1 was integration with Nigeria, supported by the KNC and KPP parties. Option 2 was secession from Nigeria, a period of independence, then gradual reunification with French Cameroon, supported by Fonches, KNDP. Option 3 was an immediate reunification and independence, strongly advocated by Ernest Wande and other leaders of the UPC party, and subsequently De Kumaza's One Cameroon party. OK was essentially the successor of the UPC party after the UPC got banned in southern Cameroons on May 30th, 1957. Option 4 was outright independence, supported by the Council of Natural Rulers and Chiefs, as well as a large percentage of the general population. This was also the preferred choice of a number of influential leaders and politicians, including Chief Stephen, who would later create the Cameroons Commoners Party, CCC, Jesco Manga Williams, who would later create the Cameroons Indigenes Party, CIP, and Paul Calais, who would later create the Cameroon United Party, KUP. While the OK Party initially supported the KNDP's position of reunification with French Cameroon, it was not in favour of Fonches' gradual reunification after a period of independence. Rather, like the UPC, it was advocating for immediate reunification. Because Endeley was against reunification, he anonymously warned electors that a vote against integration with Nigeria would mean immediate rather than gradual reunification with Cameroon, as Fonche was then promising. For a short period of time, the OK Party supported Endeley on this argument because it favoured their desired outcome. Endeley published a manifesto spelling out the reasons against joining French Cameroon. In it, he stated that in the long run, a union with French Cameroon would mean loss of freedoms, of expression, of association, of movement, and even of life. That joining would mean loss of human dignity, conscription to a life of fear, and arrests without charge. After an intense political campaign season, the KNC won the March 15, 1957 elections by a slim margin of 6 out of 13 seats, electing Dr. Endeley as the government business leader of Southern Cameroons. At the Lagos Constitutional Conference of 1957, Southern Cameroons requested and was granted full regional self-governing status within the Federation of Nigeria. A cabinet system of government was introduced in the territory on May 15, 1958, with Dr. Endeley as Premier of Southern Cameroons. On the international stage, with the passage of UN Resolution 1207, the 12th of December 13, 1957, pressure continued to mount for the publication of schedules for the attainment of self-government or independence by all trust territories. On February 19, 1958, the Southern Cameroons House of Assembly called for independence. As early as 1959, on April 6, 1958, the natural rulers and chiefs called for complete separation from Nigeria and independence for Southern Cameroons. On Southern Cameroons, the visiting mission declared that the people were split between two positions: self-government as a region of Nigeria and separation from Nigeria for a purpose not yet clearly resolved. The visiting mission either failed to identify or simply chose to ignore the most popular option in the territory, which was independence, or secession as it was called. It also chose to ignore the fact that Fontia's position leaned more towards separation and independence than towards reunification. In response to the growing popularity of the KNDP's independence and reunification message, Endeley's KNC party joined forces with the pro-Nigeria KPP in the period running up to the elections for the first regional government for Southern Cameroons. As the campaign trails turned to artillery minefields, the battles between the various parties raged on. Premier Endeley set the date for elections as January 24, 1959. With high hopes of winning the elections, Endeley declared that the winning party's position would seal Southern Cameroon's fate. Surprisingly or not, on December 5, 1958, 3 weeks after the UN's visiting mission's departure, but before their report was written, France declared that it would end its trusteeship and grant independence to French Cameroon on January 1, 1960. As for the British Cameroons, the UK vaguely stated that sometime in 1960 it expected to achieve the objectives set forth in Article 76B of the Charter of the United Nations. There were no utterances of self-government or independence in its declaration.
Hail this land of glory, we the Ambazonia, pledge our loyalty. Praise to our Savior who granted us the freedom. Allegiance to the hero who God alone we gather. Glory to glory, we rise and never to fall. Here in a nation, flowing with earth and holy. Glory, glory, glory to the Father for making you a nation, a joy forevermore. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meet in our need, and your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of this nation. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meet in our need, and your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God be